So you left the high appreciation, low cash flow market, and you went from 26 to how many units?
128 units.
Okay, I want to switch gears. I want to go over to the investor side. So you are a super investor.
Super investor. I like that title.
Yeah, you get a little title, a little
Yes.
cape. I want to talk through what's your portfolio look like right now so we can kind of establish that. How long have you been an investor?
Sure. Well, so I bought my first house when I was like just out of college. So like 23, I think. And honestly, that's when I view my start as an investor.
Oh, I love it.
Because that's when I bought my first house. And I did end up turning that one into a rental as I bought my next house, right? Which I think is the most phenomenal way to get started. So I guess from 23, so over 20 years. But like when I first got like real serious about it this go round, right? Because I ended up selling that house and I was like, I'm done with renters because it didn't go super well, right?
Yeah.
But then really like my investing journey this go round, this lifetime, if you will, started during the collapse, right? So in the mortgage meltdown in 2006, 7, 8, around 2007, I said, hey, we used to do about 10 loans a month and now we're doing like one loan. So I got to find some way to bridge the gap, right? And so it just so happened that fortunately there was a lot of foreclosure and short sale activity. People got in over their heads with subprime loans and watched The Big Short. If you haven't seen it, explains it very well, very, very entertainingly. But like we jumped into that market because I had extra time and I needed to bridge the gap. So I started helping other people buy foreclosures and short sales at the auction and thought, shoot, I can do that, right? And I got a little nest egg. I can get going on this. So I started by buying at foreclosure auction and flipping, right? So I would buy a house for 200 grand, put 50 into it and hope to sell it for 3.25, right? Make a couple bucks, pay some real estate commissions, have a project, something else to do, right? Because one loan a month didn't take up a lot of time. So, you know, that was where we started. And then around 2011, it became pretty clear. Well, one, the hedge funds came to town and they were scooping up everything. But then it was pretty clear, like, it looks like we've bought, right? The home buyer tax credit came out, rates were getting better. We'd sopped up a lot of that 6 to 12 months worth of inventory that was on the market. We'd gone through the shadow inventory in the banks. Like, it was pretty clear we were turning a corner. Actually, I had a flip. You gave me the renter for it. It was a flip in Marysville.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't going to be a very good flip.
Yeah.
But I was pressing the boundaries because we had money, capital we had to put to work. And so I bought this place and I think I was going to make like $13,000 on the flip. And I chatted with you and I said, man, I don't like, this thing isn't a very good flip, but like, who do you know? What should we do? And you said, well, hey, I think I got somebody that might want to rent that. And one of your buddies said, yeah, I'd rent that. Are you okay with this, that, and the other? I was like, yeah, that's fine. Brought in a couple buddies. They rented this house for $2,000 a month and it made me $500 a month. Net.
Perfect.
So I'm thinking, okay, I could make $13,000 one time, pay taxes on it at regular tax income rates because, you know, I didn't own it for over a year. And I could do that. Or I could make $6,000 a year in perpetuity and retain the asset. Ding, 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 right? I was like, okay, I got to do that, right? Like, I'm going to keep this and rent it. So then we started looking at the auction a whole different way. Auctions, short sales. We're like, okay, what can I get this for? What do I need to do to fix it up to rent? Because that was the other thing. When you fixed up a flip in 2008, it had to be the best dang house on the market, right? And you had to be under the next best guy on the market because every month home prices were going down 1%. So if you listed it on January 1st, if you weren't sold by February 1st, it's worth less. And you're going to have to reduce your price, not only the amount that the market's gone down, but now you got to be lower too, because if you had the price right in January, it would have sold, right? So for me, that was when I got my start, like in this lifetime of investing, was 2011. I started buying and holding, right? So I buy them, fix them up, put them into rental service. So I started buying some off-market stuff, buying some foreclosure stuff. And then we got to, I think it was probably around 2018. I had like 26 rental units in Western Washington, feeling pretty good about myself.
That's gangster.
Right? Yeah, I was doing pretty good. And then, you know, they were doing okay, but then we got to the point where the value started to really rise, but the rents weren't really rising.
Yep.
Right. And so then one of my favorite calculations for my portfolio, and this is really, really good, you got to take notes on this, is return on equity. When we're buying an investment, we talk about return on investment. And I had calculated my return on investment. But if I only put 50 grand into a house and it was making me $10,000 a year, that's a really good return on investment.
Yes. Your cash on cash is crazy.
Exactly. But if now that property's gone up in value and I still make 10 grand a year, but it's got $300,000 worth of equity in it, now my return on equity is garbage. 3%-ish, right? So I go from making 20% to making 3%. That's time to repurpose, right? That's time to do a 1031 exchange, move that money to the next property. The other thing is maybe that's a $500,000 house that I got $300,000 in equity. If it goes up 10%, I earn 50 grand, right? The market appreciation. But if I've got 300,000 in equity and I could leverage that at 4 times with 25% down, I could buy a $1.2 million property. So I sell my $500,000 house to buy a $1.2 million property. Now, if the market goes up 10%, I earn $120,000 instead of $50,000.
Ding.
Like that was what I was looking at. All my properties in Western Washington, they've been good rental. They were known quantities. They made money every month. I've owned them for years, but they're not really serving my ultimate goal. So at that point in time, we started looking again, like, okay, where do I repurpose? And it just wasn't Washington. And so for me, we ended up looking at some out-of-state investments. So started with Oklahoma, went to Tennessee. Then we've got some in Idaho and Arizona and Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Minneapolis, Minnesota. So now the portfolio is 128 rental doors. That's 22 different properties in 7 different states.
Wow. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. So the catalyst was return on equity. And now I'm looking for a better return, which causes me to go out of state. How do you deal with out of state management, multiple states, multiple banking, multiple entities, property management?
Yeah.
And then what also, when you did that, because we know our Seattle Metro is like we're a high appreciation, low cash flow market.
Yep.
What changed there too?
Yeah, Bill, great question. I started thinking about, I want to have cash flow for retirement. And appreciation is great. But we also learned in that downturn in 2006, 7, 8, and we learned last year that appreciation is not a guarantee. If you hold it long enough, it will go up. But like having a regular, predictable cash flow was what my personal goal was. Everybody's different, right? If somebody says, hey, that's silly, I want to buy where I live and I want to be able to double my value in 5 years and have that be my income, cool, right? Like that's great. Like to each his own. Like there's many different ways to get rich in real estate. But most of them are get rich slow, right? Like that's what I like to say. This is real estate's a get rich slow scheme, right? Like it's not a get rich quick scheme, right? Like that's BS. Could you kill it with some flips here and there with great buys? Absolutely. But like if you want to really get rich, it takes time. So the appreciation levels in some of these other places where I've bought are, they range between 2 and 10%. And at 2%, it's not exciting. But if I can make a 12% cash on cash return, still get 2%, still get the principal pay down and get the depreciation of a much bigger building, it really adds up. As far as how we manage it, right? I mean, every property I own, whether it's down the street from my house or 10 states away, they're all managed by a professional. I liken it to having a car, right? If somebody said, hey, Cody, you can have a car. It's all going to be awesome, but you're going to have to change the oil. I might say, well, I don't know how to change the oil. Maybe I'll pass, right? And so I talk to a lot of people that say, well, I don't want to deal with the middle of the night phone calls. I don't want to deal with the headaches, the leaky roof, the leaky toilet, blah, blah, blah. I don't either. I don't. I'm a property owner. I have somebody I pay to be the landlord, right? I'm a property owner. I'm a businessman, right? So I don't deal with those things. So having a great property manager in each one of those areas is key. And then aligning yourself with people that have similar goals, aligning yourself with real estate agents that know and understand that market that you want to go into, and then really getting an understanding of the market that you want to go into too, right? Each one of these markets was determined and researched by somebody that I really trust, right? So Jennifer Beadle started a company called Addicted to ROI. Agents Invest for the agent side. And they go out and they investigate all these marketplaces and they do the due diligence for me because I'm a pretty busy guy, right? And if I had time and I was retired and I wanted to do all that sort of work myself, I could do it. But right now, I'm better served closing loans, helping our clients get to where they want to go, and they do the research for me, right? So I get pre-scrubbed deals, I get predetermined things that I know will make sense, do my own math, execute if it's right.